The Georgian mansion loomed before me as I parked my cheap Honda Civic in the circular driveway, deliberately positioning it between Dad's Bentley and Mom's Mercedes. The weekly Morgan family dinner, a tradition built more on showing off wealth than actual family bonding. I checked my reflection in the rearview mirror, adjusting my bargain blazer that had actually cost more than their monthly country club dues. The irony of wearing a $5,000 outfit while they believed I was barely making ends meet brought a smile to my face. 5 years of careful planning had led to this moment. 5 years of building my empire in absolute silence while letting them believe I was just another struggling bank teller. If only they knew that tomorrow morning, First Atlantic Bank, their precious family institution, would have a new owner. Me. Emily. Mom's voice carried across the manicured lawn, dripping with false sweetness. We were beginning to think you couldn't afford the gas to drive over. I smiled, the same smile I used in boardrooms before executing hostile takeovers. I wouldn't miss family dinner, Mother. The foyer was exactly as I remembered, all marble and crystal, screaming old money to anyone who entered. Family photos lined the walls, heavily featuring my younger brother James, First Atlantic's golden boy CFO. My photos were conspicuously absent after age 18, when I'd chosen to start from the bottom of the banking world instead of taking my rightful place in the family business. Emily, darling, Dad called from his study, not bothering to look up from his papers. There's a junior teller position opening up at the main branch. Should I put in a word? Still at that local credit union, aren't you? James smirked, emerging from the dining room in his bespoke suit. Must be challenging working with such small accounts. If they only knew that my small credit union job had been a cover while I built Morgan Global Financial, now one of the largest private banking institutions in the world. All hidden behind shell companies and private holdings. Dinner's served, Mom announced, leading us to the formal dining room. Emily, do try not to spill anything on the tablecloth this time. It's imported Belgian lace. I took my assigned seat, the furthest from Dad of course, and watched the theater unfold. Dad at the head of the table holding court like the banking titan he believed himself to be. Mom to his right, perfectly coiffed and judgmental. James to his left, eagerly awaiting his inheritance. The board meeting tomorrow should be interesting, Dad mentioned, cutting into his Wagyu beef. Rumors about a potential buyer have everyone nervous. James nodded importantly. I've reviewed all potential candidates. Nobody has the resources to take over First Atlantic. Our family's legacy is secure. I hid my smile behind a sip of wine. They had no idea that their secure legacy had been systematically purchased through a network of shell companies over the past 3 years. Tomorrow's board meeting would reveal that First Atlantic Bank was now owned by Morgan Global Financial, and its mysterious CEO. Emily, Mom's voice cut through my thoughts. That car of yours is becoming an embarrassment. Couldn't you at least lease something more appropriate? The Honda gets me where I need to go, I replied mildly. Where you need to go? James laughed. The credit union and your studio apartment? Real bankers need to project success. Speaking of success, Dad interjected, First Atlantic's new private client division is revolutionizing wealth management. Not that you'd understand, dealing with minimum wage accounts all day. I thought about the private banking empire I'd built, handling wealth for some of the world's most powerful people. About the technological innovations my company had pioneered while First Atlantic clung to its outdated systems. Tell me, Dad, I said carefully, how's First Atlantic handling the digital transformation? I hear younger clients are moving to more technologically advanced banks. His face darkened. We maintain traditions that have served us well for generations. Unlike these startup banks with their apps and cryptocurrencies. If only he knew that Morgan Global had developed the banking app his own institution had failed to copy. Can't even afford a decent car, Mom sneered, returning to her favorite topic. The valet must have thought you were the help. Just then Dad's phone rang. He frowned at the caller ID. His executive assistant never called during family dinner. Charles Morgan speaking, he answered, putting it on speaker out of habit. Sir, his assistant's voice was urgent. The bank's new owner is here for the board meeting. They're requesting an immediate preliminary session. What? Dad sputtered. That's impossible. The meeting isn't until dash. Actually, I said, standing slowly and smoothing my cheap blazer, I thought we might want to discuss things early. Shall we? The silence that followed was deafening. 3 pairs of eyes stared at me in complete shock as understanding slowly dawned. No, James whispered, his face draining of color. You can't be. I pulled out my phone, sending a quick text. Seconds later, Dad's phone buzzed again. Sir, his assistant's voice trembled slightly, I've just received confirmation. Morgan Global Financial now owns controlling interest in First Atlantic Bank. The Civic. It's Emily Morgan. The crystal wine glass slipped from Mom's hand, shattering against the imported tablecloth she'd been so proud of moments ago. I smiled, reaching into my briefcase for the acquisition papers. Now, about that digital transformation we were discussing. The family disappointment had just become their worst nightmare. This is a joke, Dad managed, his face flushed with a dangerous combination of rage and disbelief. Some elaborate prank dash. Like the prank of liquidating my trust fund? I interrupted, sliding the acquisition documents across the table. Or the prank of blacklisting me at every major bank in the city when I refused to know my place? James grabbed the papers, his Harvard MBA finally proving useful as he scanned the contents. These are real, he whispered. Morgan Global Financial. The shell companies, the gradual stock acquisition, it was all you? While you were busy playing CFO, I said, taking a slow sip of wine, I was building something bigger than First Atlantic could ever dream of being. Would you like to see the numbers? I pulled out my tablet, projecting figures onto the dining room wall. Morgan Global Financial's current market cap is roughly 15 times that of First Atlantic. Our technology division alone is worth more than your entire operation. Technology division? Mom's voice was faint. But you're just a teller. I laughed. That was just my cover. Did none of you ever actually check? Or did you just assume I was failing because it fit your narrative? Dad stood abruptly, his chair scraping against the hardwood floor. I'll call an emergency board meeting. We'll fight this dash. Already done. I cut him off, checking my watch. The board members should be receiving their briefing packages right about now. On cue, James's phone started buzzing with messages. His face grew paler with each one he read. They're supporting the acquisition, he stammered. Even old man Harrison. Amazing what people will do when presented with actual innovation and growth potential, I mused. By the way, those packages include a rather thorough audit of First Atlantic's operations. Particularly interesting reading in the sections about executive misconduct and regulatory violations. The color drained from Dad's face. He knew exactly what those audits would reveal. The covered-up harassment cases, the questionable loans, the creative accounting that had kept First Atlantic's outdated practices afloat. You can't do this to your own family, Mom pleaded, trying a different tactic. Think of your father's legacy. Legacy? I stood, walking to the family photos on the wall. Like the legacy of telling every social contact in Atlanta that I was mentally unstable for wanting to start from the bottom? Or the legacy of sabotaging my first job applications? I turned back to face them. The banking world is changing. First Atlantic can either change with it, or die clinging to its precious traditions. And what about us? James demanded. Planning to fire your own family? Actually, yes. I pulled out another folder. Your severance packages are quite generous. More generous than you deserve. Sign them tonight and we'll call it a clean break. Dad slammed his fist on the table, making the crystal glasses jump. You ungrateful dash. Careful, Dad, I warned softly. You're about to insult your new boss. My phone buzzed, a message from my COO. Construction crews ready for tomorrow. New signage arriving at midnight. Speaking of changes, I continued, the First Atlantic name will be retired effective tomorrow. All branches will be rebranded as Morgan Global by end of week. You're destroying everything we built, Mom whispered, tears threatening her perfect makeup. No, I corrected her. I'm building something better. Your outdated methods, your old boys network, your resistance to change, it all ends tomorrow. I walked to the door, then turned back one last time. Oh, and about my car? That embarrassing Honda is just my cover. The McLaren in your driveway. The one you've been admiring all evening? That's mine. James rushed to the window, his jaw dropping at the sight of the $1 million supercar that had somehow appeared during dinner. The board meets at 9 a.m. sharp, I announced. Do try to dress appropriately. It's not every day a family loses their bank to the daughter they dismissed. As I reached for the door handle, Dad found his voice again. Emily, wait. We can discuss this. We just did, I replied without turning around. For 5 years, you discussed exactly what you thought of me. Tomorrow you'll learn exactly what that cost you. The door closed behind me with a satisfying click. In the driveway, my real car waited, a testament to the empire I'd built while they weren't watching. Sarah, my CO, stood beside it. Everything's ready for tomorrow. The press is already gathering outside First Atlantic's headquarters. I smiled, sliding into the driver's seat. Perfect. Make sure security has their new instructions. I suspect some members of the old guard might have trouble accepting the change in management. As we pulled away, I caught one last glimpse of them through the dining room window, 3 shocked faces staring after the daughter they'd underestimated. The family disappointment had just become their worst nightmare. And tomorrow the real changes would begin. The next morning I arrived at First Atlantic's headquarters before dawn. The building's imposing facade, with its pretentious columns and First Atlantic Bank lettering, would soon be transformed. Construction crews were already assembling, waiting for my signal to begin the rebranding. Sarah met me in the underground executive parking garage, tablet in hand. Your father tried to call an emergency shareholder meeting at 6 a.m. Unfortunately for him, the major shareholders are all having breakfast with our board members, reviewing the modernization plan. I smiled, adjusting my blood-red power suit, a deliberate choice for today. And James attempted to access the executive servers at 3 a.m. His credentials were already revoked. She paused. Your mother is in the lobby demanding to see you. Perfect timing. I checked my reflection in the elevator's mirrored walls. Let's give her a front row seat to the changing of the guard. The lobby of First Atlantic Bank was a testament to outdated luxury, all marble and mahogany, designed to intimidate rather than welcome. Mom stood in the center, still wearing last night's designer dress, looking distinctly unraveled. Emily, she started, her social mask cracking, you can't just dash. Actually, I can. I nodded to security, who immediately began removing the portraits of past bank presidents, all men, all looking remarkably like Dad. And I am. These portraits have hung here since 1932, she protested. And that's exactly the problem. I gestured to the modern digital displays being installed. Banking isn't about intimidating people with old portraits anymore. It's about accessibility, innovation, and actually serving our clients. The elevator dinged and James stormed out, his usually perfect appearance disheveled. The system won't let me in. My entire department is locked out. Former department, I corrected him. Did you really think I'd let you keep control of the finances after finding those creative accounting practices of yours? His face paled. You can't prove dash. Actually, I can prove everything. I pulled out my phone, bringing up a series of documents. Like the hidden losses you've been covering up? The personal expenses charged to corporate accounts? The loans to your poker buddies that mysteriously disappeared from the books? Mom swayed slightly. James, what is she talking about? Oh, he didn't tell you? I smiled sweetly. Your golden boy has been cooking the books for years. Did you really think First Atlantic's traditional methods were still profitable in the digital age? Before either could respond, commotion erupted at the front doors. Dad burst in, followed by several board members, all looking like they'd aged a decade overnight. The shareholders won't stand for this, he thundered, marching toward me. We've called an emergency dash. Board meeting. I finished for him. Yes, it's starting in exactly 15 minutes. Top floor boardroom. I checked my watch. Though you might want to change first. That suit looks slept in. This is our bank, he shouted, his face reddening. You can't just walk in and dash. Actually, it's my bank now. I nodded to Sarah, who pressed a button on her tablet. The sound of drills filled the lobby as workers began removing the First Atlantic Bank lettering from the wall. And it's time for your final board meeting. The elevator opened again, disgorging a team of auditors and federal banking regulators. Ah, perfect timing, I said. Gentlemen, the files you requested are ready. You'll find the evidence of regulatory violations particularly interesting. Dad's face went from red to white. You didn't. Turn you in? Oh, Dad. You did that to yourself. I just made sure there was a clear paper trail. James tried to slip away but security blocked his path. Going somewhere, brother dear? The regulators would like to discuss some of your creative financial strategies. Mom collapsed into one of the lobby's leather chairs, her perfectly maintained facade finally cracking. You're destroying our family. No, I corrected her, my voice carrying through the now silent lobby. I'm destroying the lies we built this family on. The pretense, the corruption, the toxic legacy you were so proud of. I turned to address the gathering crowd of employees. First Atlantic Bank died years ago. You just didn't notice because you were too busy polishing its tombstone. The main doors opened again, admitting a stream of reporters. Right on schedule. Ladies and gentlemen, I announced, my voice carrying across the marble expanse. Welcome to the future of banking. As of this moment, First Atlantic Bank ceases to exist. In its place, Morgan Global Financial will bring true innovation to banking. The construction crews began unveiling the new digital displays, showing Morgan Global's achievements, our technological innovations, our client satisfaction rates, our global reach. To our employees, I continued, change is coming. Those who embrace it will thrive. Those who resist. I glanced at my family, will need to seek opportunities elsewhere. Dad made one last attempt. The board will never dash. The board has already voted, I interrupted, projecting the results onto the new displays. Unanimously in favor of the acquisition and modernization plan. Your services are no longer required. Security stepped forward holding boxes. Please clear out your offices by noon. Your severance packages will be processed by HR. As they were led away, Dad protesting, James in handcuffs, Mom in tears, I turned to address the assembled employees again. The era of banking by intimidation is over. Welcome to banking by innovation. The new Morgan Global logo illuminated above the entrance, casting its light across the transformed lobby. The family bank was dead. Long live the new empire.